Hello, my name is Ella Josephine Baker. You might have heard that name once or twice if you had any interest in the civil rights movement from the 1930s up to 1980. I was born December 3rd, 1903 in Norfolk, Virginia. I left this physical body in 1986. I started my activism young with the Young Negro Cooperative League. Now, we were interested in developing and expanding black economic power. That's something we might want to talk about later, too. Over the years, I served the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, NAACP. I served Southern Christian Leadership Council, SCLC, and SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. I worked alongside of some of the most prominent civil rights leaders of the 20th century, including W.E.B. Du Bois, Thurgood Marshall, A. Philip Randolph, Bayard Rustin, and Dr. Martin Luther King. I mentored some of the young emerging activists like Stokely Carmichael and Bob Moses. I wasn't an out front person. I was the behind-the-scenes organizer, making sure that things got done and that things held together. I was able to bring together multiple civil rights organizations to shape some of our greatest events. Now, you know the events surrounding the murder of Trayvon Martin in February 2012 once again reminds us that the struggle for African American freedom, justice, and equality in this country is not over. I don't care what color the man is in the White House. The struggle for freedom, justice, and equality is not over, and we cannot rest until it comes. Thousands protested the failure of the authorities to arrest George Zimmerman. It was only with the thousands standing their ground and gaining media attention that finally he was arrested for fatally shooting that young unarmed boy. 45 days after the incident, they finally launched an investigation. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. When three young men, James Earl Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner, were killed one bleak night in June 1964 by members of the Mississippi White Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, the country was outraged by their deaths. Chaney was black, while Goodman and Schwerner were white. All were part of the Freedom Summer campaign organized by SNCC. An all-out search was launched for their bodies. No less than 150 FBI agents, then there were Navy divers, and hundreds of sailors were pulled into Neshoba County, Mississippi to search for their bodies. In the course of searching the swamps and the rivers around Neshoba County, the bodies of eight black men were undiscovered. These were men and boys who had recently disappeared. They didn't attract any outside attention, and perhaps, or most likely, their families and friends searched the wood a bit. But to tell the truth, the disappearance of black men in those days was so common that the families just bore the sadness quietly. Nobody searched for their bodies, mostly out of fear of reprisals. We who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons. I said, and the papers quoted me as saying, until the killing of black men, black mothers' sons becomes as important to the rest of this country as the killing of white men, white mothers' sons, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. At the time, I was working with the young people of SNCC. Bernice Johnson Reagon, founder of Sweet Honey in the Rock, was one of my young mentees. She took those words and wrote Ella's song. She really captured my spirit. Now with this Trayvon Martin thing, I struggled to understand why protests were necessary to bring George Zimmerman to trial. A young black man was dead, and at times it seemed as though the media was blaming the victim. Ella's song came back to me ringing in my head. During my time with those organizations I told you about, there were certain principles that I held to. As field secretary and as director of branches for the NAACP, I was as interested as the next fella in collecting folks' membership money. But I was more interested in training the local leadership so that they would identify their own local issues and act on them. Did you know the summer before Rosa Parks stood her ground by keeping her seat? She had been through leadership training with, that's right, Ella Baker in Jacksonville, Florida. I also believe fervently that the movement had to come from the people. We needed a grassroots movement to be sustainable. People have a strength that most of them, or should I say us, did not recognize. Finally, I believed in the young people. When some of the young people organized SNCC, I was asked to come and help. That's when I left my position as interim director of SCLC. Those young people would discuss and debate for hours and days on end, until finally they came to an understanding of their mission and agenda. I was happy to listen and let them talk it out. I gained their trust, and therefore I was able to help them understand the point of view of some of the more established organizations as well. It was the young people who organized the freedom rides and the sit-ins. My biggest challenge became to get the SCLC and NAACP to accept their role. Well, Naz, I looked at your website and your response, the response of the National Association of Black Storytellers to the Trayvon Martin tragedy. I saw their principles similar to those that I held to. I liked your focus on the youth, and you've set up a grassroots situation that asks people to seek their own answers and share in their own way. I think it's going to work. NABS will make a difference. Conditions are much improved over conditions of 80, even 40 years ago. Our work was not in vain, but there is still much to be done. We must change this society, and as we do, we have to change our perception of our role in this society. And remember, no one will do for you that which you have the power to do and fail to do. We cannot rest. Now, can I sing my whole song for you? We who believe in freedom cannot rest. As you get it, you can pick up on the chorus too. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Until the killing of black men, black mothers, sons is as important as the killing of white men, white mothers, sons. To me, young people come first. They have the courage where we fail. And if I can, I'll shed some light as they carry us through the veil. The older I get, the better I know that the secret of my going on is when the reins are in the hands of the young who dare to run against the storm. I say now, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes. Struggling myself don't mean a whole lot. I've come to understand that teaching others to stand up and fight is the only way my struggle survives. No needing to clutch for power, not needing the light just to shine on me. I need to be one in the number as we stand against tyranny. Join me now, we who believe in freedom cannot rest. We who believe in freedom cannot rest until it comes.